I've given this Trivium presentation a number of times. As JL has mentioned, that I run my own gym, and I work with a lot of very wealthy and powerful business people. And a lot of them, it's interesting that they're very successful in certain aspects of their life, and they're not. And we all have different things we need to work on in our lives. And in working with my clients, I found a lot of them had trouble disseminating truth from fallacies, and that's a big part of what we're going to be talking about today. And many people would struggle with they exercise, those things, they couldn't drink water, they couldn't eat healthy, and so by teaching people the Trivium method, it gives people the tools to think for themselves, to think more powerfully, and to, like I said, disseminate truth from facts. Because I actually grew up in the film industry. My father's a very my father's a very well-known filmmaker in Hollywood, and so I grew up behind the scenes of the film industry. And being that I grew up behind the scenes, I saw the way that things were filmed. And so I was like, wait, a lot of this it's a lot of crap that people they're consuming, and they're not actually aware of the stuff they're consuming. And what happens is when you apply the Trivium, it gives you what we call a glorified BS detection system. That's the way I like to describe this. And when you're learning it, it's like learning the alphabet for the first time. It's, when you're a little kid and you're like, oh my God, there's 26 letters, that's so many letters, right? It may have seemed kind of daunting, and now you use the alphabet every day, right? And it's pretty simple. But it's gonna be like that. The first time that you learn the alphabet, you're like, there's 26 letters. We're learning how to use words, letters, and numbers and our five senses all in a whole new way. We've actually been doing a lot of this stuff already. Some of the things I'm gonna teach you, you're already applying to your life, but what this does is it gives you a system to apply it to your life. And the key aspect, if you guys remember anything that I speak to you about today, is this point right here, is that running a gym and JL running a gym, we want you to be fit, right? And you have your five senses, and then you have words, and then you have math, right? Or words and numbers. And so if you apply words and numbers, you get what's called the right angle to make a decision with your five senses. If you remember one thing that I speak to you guys about today, there's that. Because that just makes simple sense. If you develop your five senses, when information comes at you through words and numbers, you're going to make better decisions. Does that make sense, you guys? Cool. So, let's get into this a little more deeply. The art of learning how to learn. The Trivium is actually known as the three-way path to truth. And that's what we want to find out here. We want to get to truth. And by using the system of principles, it's very easy to do that. Now, the Trivium starts with grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And let me take one step back and say that this altogether is called the Trivium method. And this one aspect of this triangle is called the Trivium, which is words. And the quadrivium is numbers, as in quantity. You guys clear with that? Cool. So back to what I was saying with the Trivium. We have grammar, logic, and rhetoric. Now, when I explain things to people, I think it's really important to use images so people can really understand what you're talking about. So I say grammar, and people think about different things. But at the most basic level, it's words. Or input, right? This is a very modern way of looking at it. Is input is when you're processing information. Just like right now, as I'm speaking, you guys are processing my words. That is the grammar. Another way of looking at that is it's like the building blocks, okay? Whenever somebody communicates to you, you have to figure out what they're saying, if it's truthful or not, right? So that's the grammar stage, when you're just assessing information. And myself and JL and Chris, we believe that we're still in this phase in terms of understanding all this stuff. Part of us teaching it, when you teach this stuff, that's when you gain true mastery. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but we want you guys all to learn this stuff so that you can teach it to others, so everybody can have the power of this knowledge for themselves as well. But after we get grammar, we have the input, right? We have the pieces to the house, then we come to the logic, okay? The logic is also known as the why, but that's where you process information to figure out if it's truthful or not. Or it's when you put the house together. So you have the pieces to the house, right? This is me communicating to you. But when you actually put the pieces of the house together, that's when it's an actual thought in your mind. That's when you process the why, right? The process. Just like a computer works. You have input, you type in the computer, you process it, and then you get an output, right? So leading to the output, we come to rhetoric. Now this is a very powerful word. And Chris, what does the word rhetoric mean to you?
It's expressing your ideas to others.
Exactly. That's exactly what we're doing right here. I'm actually giving you guys rhetoric. So like right now, there's all this political stuff going on, right? So we have different politicians, they're actually giving their rhetoric to people. And so what the rhetoric is, and my way of explaining, is it's your blueprint, okay? A lot of people, they have a blueprint, we all have a blueprint or a rhetoric for how we choose to live our lives. Does that make sense, guys? So no matter who you are, like however you're thinking, like these words that I'm using, right? You have your own rhetoric. And that's one of the most powerful points to this presentation is that my goal in teaching this is that I want you guys to learn how to build your own rhetoric. Instead of having a pulse, this is the rhetoric, this is the way that it's going to be. It's like you have to put whatever people's rhetoric, when I bring you this rhetoric I'm giving you, make sure you put it through this process before you take it as truth. You get what I'm saying? What I'm giving you is the tools, right? I'm giving you the pieces to the house to build the house for yourself and create your own rhetoric. You guys clear with that? That's a very, very powerful aspect of this. And the only way to do that is through your 5 senses, right? So can we name our 5 senses? Name one of the 5 senses.
Sight.
5 senses.
Smell.
5 senses.
Touch.
Touch.
Taste.
Taste. Yes.
And
Excellent.
hearing. Nobody said out.
Sound.
Yes.
Sound is very important, right? So when you use all those with words, then you get to this. So the one thing that Jay always tells me, I got to talk more about the liberal arts, right? So a lot of people, that's become an ugly word in society, right? People think, well, you're such a liberal. It's like, this is actually the roots of where the word liber, or to free, comes from. Like the word liberty means to free. A lot of our words have been kind of changed in the way that we interpret them, because our rhetoric has changed over time. That's why we're teaching this stuff, because we aren't taught these tools in school today. They actually used to teach this way back in the day. And do you guys remember seeing, or maybe, like I did a field trip when I went to Miller Creek Middle School, and they had the schoolhouse out in front of the school, and it showed how back in the day people would learn in one room, kind of like this, right? They had one teacher teaching all different grade levels, and I never understood how could they teach all different grade levels in one classroom. And then I realized when I found the Trivium, they actually teach the Trivium to the younger kids. And as the younger kids get older, they would teach the Trivium to the next age of younger kids. And so this is actually an ancient system. They stopped teaching in the early 1900s because they realized they didn't want free thinkers. They wanted people to be good workers. That's where we get into the industrial age, and they want to teach people. They don't want people to think. They don't want you to think creatively. And a lot of this stuff that's what it's going to do, because you're going to be able to process information better. Does that make sense?
Yeah. We get taught the servile arts.
Yes.
Servitude,
Yeah, I remember you told me that. Yes.
servant, literally. That's our education system. It teaches us how to be workers. It doesn't teach us how to be
It's not free.
creative, change the world type people.
Yeah, instead of it's
But
a
that's
servile
what this
arts.
kind of education is.
Instead of the libero arts, it's to free arts.
Literally, it's the
And that's-
servant arts
Yes.
is what we're taught.
So like, it's not that the information that we were taught is bad. It's just that like all information. It's like this is a concept that Chris and I were talking about the way coming up here. Is that like information is like a knife. It can be used to cut fruit or cut someone's throat. Right? It's all about how you use that information. It's very real. So us teaching this information, we want you to teach you how to be very sharp in terms of your ability to cut through things that are not true. And we'll get into the logical fallacies, which Jael's going to go over, and this will make more sense because when you get to logical fallacies, that's part of this whole process. It's the logic, the why. Let me get into that aspect right now. Is when we're assessing grammar, I like to teach this in multiple ways. Remember we talked about we have the input, processing, and output. We have the pieces to the house, we have the building of the house, and we have the blueprints, right? So another way of looking at this, for people who don't understand those concepts, is this is something you've been doing your whole life already, is the who, what, when, and where is the grammar. And we're going to go into one of our exercises later that Chris will be doing, is that in any situation, I think this is a good example. It's like your son or daughter has come up to you and they're like 14, 15, you're like, oh, I'm going on a date tonight. What questions would you ask them? What would you want to know?
Who is this?
Right? What questions do you want?
Where are you going?
Where are you going, right?
Yeah.
And I always think that's a good explanation of like, because like, wait, who are you going with? What are you doing? When are you going to be there? Where are you going to be? Or when are you going to get back, right? So these are simple concepts. Welcome, dude.
Welcome.
Simple concepts that like you want to take like any time somebody comes at you with a question. Like I'm actually going to Singapore in a few days. I'm going to Thailand and Malaysia, and like people are going to BS me and try to sell me stuff. You know what I mean? That happens when you go to foreign countries. But I'm actually really excited because now I have all these tools, so people come at me with their BS. Like who are you? What is this? Why are you trying to sell this to me? Like and so that's where you get the grammar, right? That is the building blocks to any different situation. Then we come to the rhetoric, or excuse me, the logic, which is the why. Why do you do it, right? This is a really important aspect because what happens is in our society, a lot of politicians and stuff, they don't want you to even look at the grammar. They want to tell you why. They want to sell you on the logic and then feed you the rhetoric without you properly assessing it, right? And that's why what I'm teaching is so important. That's why like when I teach this to my clients, like when you watch a Taco Bell commercial late at night and it looks really yummy, you realize it's a disgusting chalupa, but your mind, it's hitting your mind. You're like, well, seems really logical to delete that right now, you know? But if you don't know this, then it gets into your mind quicker. You get what I'm saying? That's why like me and John Logan and Chris are so passionate about teaching this stuff, because we're teaching people that it's like body armor for you when you're out there in the world. That's why this is like, why would I do that? You know, it's hitting your body armor, right?
It literally teaches you how to rethink everything.
Exactly. So really put like that key point there, the why, the logic, and we're going to get into the logical fallacies, right? Because there are a lot of fallacious reasons that people are going to sell you crap. And so when you understand this stuff and you put the logical fallacies through the Trivium, then you're going to make better decisions. And not just better decisions, you can learn things faster as well.
Yeah, you become like smarter without knowing anything else. It's like you know all the same stuff, but it's organized now. You're like, whoa, you know?
Yeah, like a lot of stuff that we're talking about, you already know, but it's all like this. We weren't taught in school how to put it all in order, and that's what we want to teach you guys today. But that gives us right to the rhetoric. So, another way of explaining rhetoric is the how, right? Remember I talked about input, processing, output? So, or the pieces of the house is built, and this is how to build the house. Right now, I'm teaching you guys, I'm showing you how to build the house. This is how we do the Trivium, right? The cool thing about teaching is I'm actually using it as I teach. Each time I speak about it, you start to understand it better. And part of what we're doing with this curriculum is we want to get more people to come up and actually teach this, what I'm doing right now today. Like JL's come up and spoke, Chris is coming up soon, you're going to speak sometime too. So we want to challenge you from when you get up here and actually present this information. It starts rewiring things in your brain. You're like, oh, that makes sense and that makes sense. And it happens the best when you're teaching it to other people. Now, when you go out in your day-to-day life, do some research before you try to explain it to people, because it's not easy when you first start. But if you put the time and effort in and you apply the tools of the Trivium, it makes sense, right? Because you're using your 5 senses, duh, right?
Yeah, good one.
That just came to me, bro. So,
give me a laugh, crowd.
So, I really like this part. I'm actually I'm a words guy. I'm a great speaker. I'm not a numbers guy. But let's get into the quadrivium. And all this stuff goes way deeper than I'm talking about today. We're just grazing on the surface so you guys understand the basic principles. So the quadrivium is like quanta, right? Like measurements, right? So we have the arithmetic, which is just abstract measurement. Geometry, which is like geometry, earth measure, right? Then we have music, which is it's kind of like water. You put a drop in water and you see a vibration, right? And we have astronomy, and that's let me rephrase that. So arithmetic is just abstract numbers. Geometry is numbers in space. Water is numbers. Music is numbers in time, and astronomy is numbers in time and space. Do you guys get that? I kind of messed it up for a second there.
Sorry.
I'll explain it one more time. So we have numbers in space, numbers in time, and numbers in space and time. With me? So one of the other explanations for like why do you want to learn this information? Alexander the Great, he used to teach the Trivium method to his warriors before they would go into battle. And this story that I heard is that one day one of his warriors actually, Alexander the Great saw one of his warriors teaching the Trivium to one of their slaves. So they would bring slaves to do some work for on the horses before they go into battle. And Alexander the Great was absolutely pissed. He did not want the warriors teaching the Trivium method to the slaves. If the slaves knew the Trivium method, they would know how to think for themselves and rise up, right? He did not want them to know that. That's a very powerful aspect, right? Now, the reason why would Alexander the Great teach people teach his warriors the quadrivium, or the Trivium, right, is a big part of this is the quadrivium. Because if you're in battle and you're striking your opponent, you want to be able to measure space and time around you. The more you understand space and time, you're going to have better control manipulating it. And this applies to fitness too. If I'm like doing like a clean, right, I have to think about how I'm applying my hips and my shoulders and my back through space and time to do the movement. I just thought it on the spot. I thought it was good, right? Cool. But it makes sense, right? Because you're always using space and time on your day-to-day basis. But this gives you an actual system for how to apply that. Now, one thing that really blew my mind, and I love talking about this, and I kind of mentioned it as I was explaining it the first time, is that it actually applies to the 4 elements as well. And they say the 5th element is you, right? So it kind of applies to your 5 senses, you being that 5th element. But arithmetic is air, right? Just abstract. Geometry, it makes sense, right? It's geometry, it's earth measure, right? Then we have music, which is water, right? It's a vibration. And then we have astronomy, which is fire. So when you apply all these, one of the things that I love about that when you actually do get to some of the deeper stuff of how the Trivium works with the quadrivium is that they talk about the female and male chalice, right? So you see the star I have right here? So all the alchemical symbols here, they all apply to equal this. But what happens is, in something I think that we're lacking in school is we're not teaching our children emotional intelligence. That's why we have stuff like happened this morning. I don't know if you guys heard about the mass shooting. Because people don't have emotional intelligence. You know, like that's a very crude, simple way of explaining why it's happening. But in general, I don't think we're teaching our children emotional intelligence. And when you learn stuff like this, I've learned to be more emotionally intelligent because this symbol is a symbol of the male and female chalice. This is the male and this is the female. And when you're balanced, you have this star because you have this understanding of space and time and using words to be more balanced because stuff comes at you. Instead of like reacting to it emotionally, you put it through the trivium. And now you're going to make a better decision because you're not emotionally charged with your actions. Does that make sense? This is where it's actually really helped me because like shit happens. You know, like this morning I was telling you guys like my aunt died and I was definitely sad this morning. And then all of a sudden I found this guy's motorcycle and it was like a really wild morning for me. It's like, how do I channel all that and just get my energy balanced so I can come up here and speak to you guys today? It's like it's not easy when you have emotional things happen. But that's where I actually applied it to myself today, right? How do I keep my mind balanced depending on whatever happens in my life? And that's one of the aspects that we like to teach this to other people because it's so powerful and it really empowers you a lot. On a last final note, I want to go over just simple aspects of like how you can apply it to your daily life. You know, if you're out in the battlefield and you're fighting dragons and I'm just joking. But in our daily lives, it feels like that sometimes, right? When we're dealing with things. And that comes back to like I was just saying with the emotional stuff. When you know how to use these things, you can use energy when it comes at you, and you can actually help it to apply it to more success in your life because you know how like words are just energy, right? You can take that energy and you can shift it however you want. We're going to talk later about like light and dark principles of mind control, right? You have the power of how you choose to interpret those words to change your reality. Does that make sense? So at the most foundational level, the three-way path is all about finding truth. And the center of the word truth is you. And when you apply the trivium, you will be more powerful. Thank you.
You want to open up the questions real quick?